Welcome to Fresh from the Showroom from SwissWatchExpo. Today we're going to talk about the Rolex Oysterquartz. Why is this important in the world and what do we need to know about it? Do you have any idea of what the Rolex Oysterquartz is or where it came from?
Well, I remember that during the quartz revolution when all the entire Swiss watch world was in a panic mode because the quartz watch looked like it was taking over, and there were all these dire reports that mechanical watches, things with cogs and gears and springs, were going to go the way of the dinosaur, that Rolex did come out with one quartz watch. For a long time, people said that the way you could tell a fake Rolex from a real one was the jumping second hand, meant that it had some sort of Chinese quartz movement in it. But then Rolex did come out with their own quartz watch. But the only thing I really know about it is that it has an entirely different case and link shape, and that's what sets it apart from the regular Datejust and Presidents. But other than that, I mean, I'm wide open to hear what you have to say about it.
So around 1975, Rolex decided they knew that the Oysterquartz crisis was coming, and they wanted to introduce a quartz model, but they wanted to make sure, to your point, that they did not let any of their normal watches tick for the reasons of the fakes. Now, back then, of course, the fakes weren't as good as they are now, as we all know. And so they actually had a case that they were ready to use, but they weren't ready for the quartz to go in. And that watch is actually this one right here. This one actually was produced from 1975 to 1977, and we actually have one. It is rumored that there was only less than 2,000 models actually produced, pieces. So what they did was they actually took the case, which it won't fall deaf on anybody, that this is actually a case that looks just like an Audemars Piguet, right? It has that Gerald Genta look and design. And the reason that we know that from just historical value is the squared off edges that you see and the portal window shape of the actual crystal and the dial, and the way that it's raised. You'll actually see that it's raised above the case here, sort of like a porthole window on a ship, right? Right. So they also flattened out the links. It was very unusual to see flattened links like this. The Oyster style link became a more squared off edge and a much flatter design, and they didn't polish the center links. Instead, they just kept everything a satin finish. So less than 2,000 of these rumored to be produced. We don't know exactly, but we actually have one, and this thing is in absolutely pristine condition. It's one of my favorites, but it is an automatic. So once the Oysterquartz, of course, came into being, we have a couple of different designs, and believe it or not, the Oysterquartz was in production. This shocked me because I actually didn't pay any attention to it till 2001. Did you realize that?
I did not.
It wasn't popular in Europe. It was only popular in Asia and the United States. And I guess it's because in Japan specifically and in the United States, we like high technology, right? One of the cool things about the way that this quartz works, it actually has an ability to be timed inside, just like a mechanical watch. So you can adjust the seconds forward or backward. It also has thermal compensating in it, so it can compensate. It was really high technology. It could actually compensate for pressure and for temperature.
Wow.
Yeah. So all of these things affected battery life too, right?
That's an amazing little machine.
It has a huge battery on the inside too, by the way. It wasn't, all the new watches, they have these little thin things now. Yeah, no, this one has a nice bulky battery that lasts a good long time. Of course, you can't see that because it was so well designed.
Right.
So one of my favorites in this lineup is the President model of the quartz, because who thinks of having a President and having a quartz model? Right. This is a watch you can literally wear every day. You don't have to worry about setting it down. The bracelet is super robust. You don't get that flex out of this bracelet like you do on a lot of the other Presidents, even going back as far as the 1970s. Because if you buy a watch from the 1970s that's been worn heavily, you get tons of flex. Some of them you can tie in a knot. Right. Right? With these, they last forever. They get a certain amount. They had a certain amount of flex on them to begin with because they wanted to protect the edges, obviously, right? I think that's pretty common knowledge. Yeah, go ahead and have a look at that. We've got one here with this is truly vintage 70s. This is a burlwood dial. I don't think it gets much more 70s than that, right?
When you're riding along in your Rolls Royce and you're asking for the Grey Poupon and you've got on your burlwood dial President.
And your avocado green carpet.
Right. That's really neat, though. And that's an actual slab of wood, right? It's not just painted to look like that.
Thin cut of wood, yeah. No paint. Absolutely.
And these are all available right now at SwissWatchExpo.com, right?
All of them are available at SwissWatchExpo.com. SwissWatchExpo.com. And in fact, actually, we have multiple different colors. Here we have on the screen on our tablet, which you can access from anywhere, obviously, the black dial in the Oyster Quartz as well. I think it's a sharp-looking watch.
I also noticed that the day is not in English on that one.
It is not. I have no idea what version of language that's in.
I think that's Spanish.
Is it? I'll take your word on it.
Okay.
Saldo?
I think that's
That's
Saturday.
not. Is it? Yeah. I thought they had a D. Maybe that's Portuguese.
Maybe so.
I have no.
They're very close. I do know that Rolex made day wheels with lots and lots of different languages. I mean, maybe 75 languages, I'm thinking.
I didn't know.
And so it's kind of a collector's item to look for day wheels that are from a different language.
That I didn't know. I thought literally that it was only French and German and Spanish and English, and that was pretty much it.
Maybe I'm talking about some sort of custom aftermarket thing.
Not allowed.
Not allowed.
Not allowed.
And so we would never sell it at SwissWatchExpo.com.
Absolutely.
We only sell absolutely authentic, first run, from the factory Rolex parts.
That's a really good point. Here at Swiss Watch Expo, we don't deal in any watches that have aftermarket parts, no aftermarket bracelets, no clasps, no dials, no hands, no diamonds, no bezels, nothing. That's a really good point. I don't think we say that quite enough here, except when people ask us, of course, on the phone, and we have to repeat ourselves multiple times because we want to make sure people hear that. That's really important because you do find a lot of that in the marketplace. So I think the most classic color of this is the steel and gold model with the champagne dial. It doesn't get any more classic in Rolex than that. But what I think is interesting about this watch is the bracelet. It's got the multi-link bracelet, which represents sort of a flattened out version of the Jubilee dial.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, the Jubilee bracelet.
Yeah.
It's an interesting design. It was modern. It was upbeat. It was. I'm a big fan of kind of like the 50s and the 40s and 50s sort of architecture and modern art sort of style, and that's what that reminds me of in a very large way.
Kind of mid-century modern.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, if you're going to have a quartz model which exudes the idea of modern technology, why not have a modern technology style bracelet to go along with it?
That's really interesting. I think that for a lot of people, when they think about the story, the design behind the watch that they wear, that really allows you to take even a little extra pleasure, a little extra joy in what you're wearing. And we always say you should buy whatever makes you happy, whatever brings a smile to your face. That's the watch that you should buy. And this is neat. I never really thought this much about the Oyster Quartz before. I'm glad you told me about it.
I also like it because it's because of the width of the bracelet and because of this way the design of the case is. I wear a large watch. I usually wear between a 42 and a 46. This is a 36 millimeter, but on my wrist, it doesn't look too small.
No, it doesn't.
So you can actually wear this when you have large wrists, and they fit amazingly well. And it's not one of those watches you're probably going to wear every day, so you can set it in your watch bin, or your watch. You're not going to put it in a watch winder. You don't have to take up any space. And when you pick it up, 2-3 weeks from now, it's still going to be running. It's going to be on time, and there's no resetting it.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks. Fresh from the showcase here at Swiss Watch Expo.